You know what? I can really have 3 gateways. I guess my last step would then be, how do I refine a build that revolves around 3 gateways, going Stalker? How do I, time that a little bit better? And of course, that's when you go back to my earlier daily where I talked about timings and, fine-tuning a build order. But, now, my money's getting high. Okay, well, cool. Well, am I remembering to build probes? I'm actually forgetting a little bit. And here I throw these things down. So I'm noticing, if I go 3 gateway, and I'm remembering to build my pylons, I'm remembering to build my probes, then honestly, I can almost afford an expansion. Yeah, look, okay, so here's my Stalker, and oh, cool. By having good timing, by having smoothness, by having a good mental checklist, I'm starting to go, oh, Jesus, wow, yeah, I can actually afford an expansion. So I guess maybe as a build order, I can go 3 gateway Stalker into expand. Nice. Cool. That's something. That's an approximation of something good. As long as I'm building probes and remembering to chrono boost. Alright, cool. Yeah. Oh, whoops. Looks like I can... Oops, I don't want to build any zealots. Out of hell with that. Yeah. So, and it's all thanks to the good old mental checklist. So, this daily is going to go on marginally longer than normal. Because I just have a few extra things to say. So the second thing I want to talk about, the mental checklist, probably the most important tool of the Starcraft player. That's how you end up playing fast. And you've probably felt this where you're getting distracted. Perhaps you're typing in chat. Excuse me, you're typing in chat, and you just go, oh, dude, totally forgot my first Overlord. At least that's what I do. I screw that up all the time, and it's because I'm just looping through my head. All right, cool, doing this stuff. And, after a while of doing this, I'm not actually just talking to myself in my head or on voices. It's just sort of automatic. I look up here at this corner, look down there at that mini-map, cool. And then I go make some probes. But, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah, so I'm sure that you have felt this, where there's something else going on. You're humming along to a tune in your head. You're tabbing to chat on AIM during a game. When, in reality, the reason that this is messing you up is just because it's interrupting your mental checklist. Make sure your mental checklist, your mental loop, is constantly going through your head. So I want to talk a little bit about good habits with your keyboard and your mouse, because you saw me do everything with the mouse. You saw me click everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift 1 to reset. So everyone knows that what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this nexus, I'm going to build a probe, and then I'm going to box these guys and send them to mine. Cool. Great. Easiest thing in the world. I do want to say that with the probe, most people will learn this hotkey very fast, E, and they will happily just hit this E button to build this nexus. Or excuse me, to build a probe at this nexus. However, a lot of times there are other things, like for instance this mothership, fortunately the hotkey is covered up, that you might not know the hotkey to, or for instance, let's say Blink or the Zealot Leg Charge. One of these upgrades that you get once a game, and you don't know it. So you just sort of go down and you click it and you go back to what you're doing. Don't do that, right? That's bad. That's really quite awful. So this is the first good habit that I want you to get into. If you're not using the keyboard a lot, or even if you are, anytime you don't know the hotkey, just come down here and look. And so, okay, it is a probe. I want you to do this every time. So let's say this is some building, and I want to do something with it. Okay, probe, and I want you to pull your mouse all the way back up to the main screen, and then hit the button. So again, thanks to this reset, I can happily do this. You just go click, look, pull back, hit the button, and then go. And okay, so now we want to have a good hotkey setup. So you're going to start seeing me hit some hotkeys down here. I'm going to hotkey this nexus as 4. Right up here. And I want you to get in this habit. Every time you want to make a probe, hit 4E. You're going to see my money getting very high here. Ignore the money. We're not focusing on the money. We just got done with the mental checklist, the keeping the money low portion of this daily. So, but we're just thinking about good keyboard control. Now, my nexus is already selected. I could easily just hit E. But I don't want you to do that. I'm actually going to cancel this probe. I want you to hit 4E. I want you to get in that habit of hitting the button for the for the building, and then hitting the hotkey. So then, okay, my probe finished. 4E. And obviously I'm about to be supply blocked here. So I now want to make a pylon. And of course, a lot of people you'll see will do something like this where they'll hit the build button, and again they'll click here, and then they'll drag to build it. You know, again, they don't do it with pylons, but they might do it with the Templar Archives. They might do it with a fleet beacon, a building that they don't build very often. But again, I want you to get in the habit of BE, building this pylon, and here's a great habit to get into. Extremely good keyboard habit to get into. When you build it, so people have seen this, where I'm going to build it really far away. I'm going to build it here, and then I'm going to hold the shift button and return home. Right? Everyone and their mom, has seen someone do this. But the problem comes when you're building close. A lot of times people will do this. So I'm not going to shift click when it's close. So see my probe? He's moving to the right, and I'm going to click here to the left. I'm going to build a pylon right here, and you'll see people do this. See how I built it and then I clicked him? Don't do that, okay? So I'm actually going to build a pylon directly underneath this probe, and I'm still going to hit shift and then click back. And I guarantee you I was holding shift during that period. You didn't see this fancy line in the midst of everything. But, again, it's so important to get in that habit of using the shift key. Because, again, when you're in an intense situation, and I have seen this so many times at tournaments, right? Like, every single time I go to a live tournament, you get some player who will be, he'll be doing everything good, Bill Barrick's shift click back, Bill Barrick's shift click back. And then later on, he'll like build a starport, and he won't shift click back later in the game. It'll just sit lonely by the starport. Or a Protoss player who will build an Arbiter Tribunal and won't shift click back. He'll wait for it to go down, and then he'll click it back. Because, again, those habits are easy to do early on, but a lot of times people sort of let them go out the window when their brain's getting filled up with other stuff. And the reason I emphasize getting your hands used to it so much is if your hands are remembering to shift click back, shift click back, if they're remembering to shift click back, there we go. Got rid of that R. If your hands can remember it, then that frees your brain up to do more stuff. Frees it up to think about adjusting your build and responding to the situations that are on the screen. So you know what? Let's build some gateways really fast here. Fortunately, my money is super high. Oh, want to build a probe for E. And likewise, I want a chrono boost for C. Being very good about clicking that. And you're probably noticing something that I intentionally didn't mention. I hotkeyed this Nexus as 4. It is so important that you spread out your hotkeys. So just as a general rule, just as a general framework for your hotkeys, have the stuff you click a lot in the 1 to 4 range and in the 5 to 8 range. And we'll talk about why I broke those up. But 1 to 4 and 5 to 8 are really, really, really key areas for your hands. And also, 0, 9, and 8, sometimes, those are generally the things that you want to have access to at some point, that you would perhaps want to check, but that you don't need to be spamming regularly all the time. As I straighten my glasses. So for instance, a forge that is upgrading. I'm not going to be going back every 5 seconds to that the way I would with a Nexus, but I do want to know when that upgrade's done. So I'm going to I'm going to hotkey that to 0. Or perhaps my Citadel of, not my Citadel of a Dune, my Twilight Council. I think I've called it a Citadel like 5 times during this cast. My Twilight Council. That is a great building to have hotkey to 0. Because then, let's say I'm trying to do a little bit of control at his front, and I want to know how soon my blink is to being done. Let's say my opponent's coming to push out to do a little damage to me. I need to know if my blink's close to done or not, to know if I can engage that and safely retreat or something like that. No need to go back to the base. I can happily control my units, and then 0, click, go check. Okay, cool, everything's fine. And then come back to the battle. So, and again, I talked about this 5 to 8 range. You do want higher up buildings to be in these higher up, or excuse me, you want buildings to be in these higher up hotkeys, or at the very least something to be in these higher up hotkeys. Because, for instance, I want all of you to look at your keyboard right now. I want all of you to just stare at your keyboard. And so I'm looking at my keyboard right now. I'm not even looking at the screen. Notice how easy it is for the hand to hit 5Z and 6Z. That is so easy for my hand to do that. Incredibly, incredibly easy. Now, let's go back to these gateways. I'm going to cancel them. Control 1 and Control 2 I'm setting out of these gateways. Look at how awkward it is for the hand to hit 1Z and 2Z. That is not really nice in the slightest. So that's why we really like that 5Z, 6Z style setup.